Very good morning to everyone. I'd like to thank everyone who has given their time to come over and to join today's session. My name is Nigel. I'm from Global Growth Acceleration and I shall be your MC for today. Now, today is the third GAIN Dialogues that is being run by MDEX Global Growth Acceleration, and our topic of today is Smart IoT Technologies, Keeping Ahead of COVID-19. Now, for those of you who've actually attended our previous GAIN Dialogues, it'll be a bit different for today since we're not just only running a panel session, but we'll also have two presentations from industry experts in IoT in Malaysia. So before I go ahead and introduce the first speaker of today, I'd like to hand over the floor to my colleague, Jessie, who is the Head of Portfolio Management for Global Growth Acceleration, to say a few opening words before we start now. Jessie?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Nigel, and a very good morning to everyone. And so glad to have all of you on the webinar this morning. And this morning, we are very privileged to have with us three very experienced speakers with us from the technology innovation space. And I think when MDEX started its IoT work early on, 4 to 5 years ago, there was no sign of a nationwide IoT network, but today here we are with Exploranti in the picture, and a company like Sofik, who has grown by leaps and bounds since the early days of its inception. And then now we have a very comprehensive and well thought out public and private collaboration program that is in the form of NTIS. So this morning we are very happy to have all three speakers with us, and I wish everyone a very productive webinar going forward. Should you have any questions later on, do stay back for the panel session. We will try our best to answer your questions. With that, I wish everyone a very productive day ahead, and thank you very much, Nigel, for hosting this event, and back to you.
Right. Thank you, Jessie, for those opening speech for today. So now let me introduce the next speaker on our list today. He'll be speaking on the National Technology Innovation Sandbox. And if for those of you who don't know what it, or NTIS for short, for those of you who don't know what the NTIS is, it's a facility that allows researchers, innovators, startups, and high-tech entrepreneurs to test their products, services, business models, and delivery mechanisms in a live environment. Our presenter will be Tengku Muhammad Azrul, Tengku Azhar, who's the Secretary of NTIS. He has more than 15 years of experience in various industries, including oil and gas, logistics, energy, healthcare, as well as township development and management. Tengku Azrul holds a bachelor degree in information technology studies, specializing in information systems engineering, and is a certified Price 2 practitioner. He is also a member of the Wireless Broadband Alliance's Connected City Advisory Board, part of the PCOM CIO Council, as well as the working group of Malaysia's Autonomous and Connected Vehicles Testbed, and a 5G Task Force member. So I'd like to hand the floor over to Tengku Azrul for him to start his presentation. Tengku Azrul, the floor is yours.
Hello, hi, thank you, Nigel. Thank you, everyone. I need to start my screen. Okay, everyone can see the screen, right? Nigel?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we can see the screen.
Let me start off with introduction. Thank you, Nigel, for the introduction. I'm Tengku Azrul. I'm attached to Futurize, but today I'll be speaking on behalf of NTIS, the Secretariat member, Magic, MIMOS, TPM, and us. And the main funding partner is MTDC. Let me... Okay. The reason why NTIS was created by MOSTI was to look at the COVID-19 related issue We face issue on government procurement processes and slow innovation adoption. The objective of NTIS is to resuscitate and recover Malaysia's economy in short and medium term, to foster and promote new innovation in, again, short to long term, and to spur and catalyze innovation growth in mid and long term. So the immediate focus sector that we're looking at is medical technology, manufacturing, agriculture, education, and travel and tourism. To reiterate what Nigel mentioned earlier, it is a safe space to allow everyone, the innovators, to test the product, services, business model, and delivery mechanism in a live environment with relaxation of all or specific processes and regulatory requirement. Again, NTIS comprise two components, which is the technology and or innovation sandbox and the regulatory sandbox. Okay, the vision to transform Malaysia into inclusive high-tech nation via advanced technology-driven strategy. Again, the vision is that the technology and innovation sandbox, again, is the safe place, and the technology driver will be looking, I think it cut across the likes of 5G, sensor technology, the 3D, 4D, and 5D printing, advanced material, advanced intelligence system, and so on. The strategic pillars is to look at foster talent development for a high-tech nation, increase sector productivity through tech adoption, accelerate R&D and commercialization through simplified policies and regulation, improve digital and infrastructure and technology platform, as well as increase private sector participation. The objective of the country by having this is to create high-skilled job opportunities, to get a higher GNI and GDP and social inclusion, and to increase private sector investment in R&D. Okay, the advancing through Malaysia through technology and innovation, the aspired outcome is cashless society, financial inclusion, empowering local talent, manufacturing, automation, digital government, innovation, innovative food economy, accessible healthcare, sustainable living, uninterrupted commerce, as well as future-proof the rakyat. Here, I think it's key to mention that stakeholder involved in this is not only government and it's not only the big players. It cut across everyone, the ministries, agencies, startup, entrepreneur, SMA, academia, corporate and VCs, and the beneficiaries is not only one part of the rakyat. Basically, we're looking on the inclusive B40, M40, T20, all in is the rakyat of Malaysia lah. So example of statement that we're looking at, I think why Yang Berhormat Perdana Menteri keep on saying that problem statement is how can we conserve the food supply in order to alleviate hunger and malnutrition. We're looking at, in fact, ineffective food supply. We can see that when MCO happened, there's a lot of disruption in the logistics, high building maintenance costs, slow virus detection method, inefficient drug delivery and administrative. This is again come out during the MCO, reduction of high-risk job, increased counterfeit money usage, high dependency on foreign labor in low-skilled job. We need to look at how can we solve this, and high undocumented immigrant and low parental involvement in education. Innovation include creating solution to existing problem and improve its current process and way of doing things. The ministries are focused into are the focal point to drive the innovation agenda for the nation, to spearheaded by MINISTRIES, and this can be done effectively through the formation of innovation team in each ministry. So let me dive in and focus into the initiative that led by MINISTRIES. MINISTRIES is the project owner and leader of this NTIS. They provide support to other ministries, agencies, and regulators, and assist in setting up sandbox testbed. The NTIS Secretariat consists of MAGIC, TPM, MIMOS, and Futurize, and our main funding partner is MTDC. Again, you can see the role of each agency is different, and we are working together into solving the common problem. The other roles that are crucial to NTIS is commercialization partner and regulatory partner. We need to look at how can we elevate certain innovation that can be commercialized right away. But certain innovation requires some regulation changes or some realization in the regulation. That is why NTIS is quite key in this whole scheme of things. The governance structure, we have these are our governance structure, headed by National Technology Innovation Sandbox Council, chaired by the Yang Muhammad Perdana Menteri. We have the task force, co-chaired by Musti Minister and KSN. And we have our Ministries Sectoral Committee, chaired by the KSU of the Ministry, Chief Innovation Officer, and relevant agency and regulators head. The NTIS Secretariat, chaired by the KSU, the CIO of the Ministry, again, relevant agencies and regulators head. In here, we introduce Technology Innovation Officer in every ministry. We hope with this introduction of this office, it will smoothen the implementation of all the innovations. And the regulatory sandbox, we look at how MSC, the Ministry Sectoral Committee, can appoint a regulator that will facilitate the innovation. Okay, NTIS will partner and collaborate with all ministries, relevant agencies, corporate and private sector through this stage. We split it into early and mid stage. We look at how the basic principle, formulation of concept, and validation on how can the certain idea to be validated, how can we look at the product development, and how efficient the efficiency of the product before it go to growth and mature. So the source of this, it may come from R&D, it may come from capacity building. So we need to look at how can we enable this, how can we fund the innovation, and how can we help the market access. Again, when we say it has to collaborate with everyone, when we talk about market access, it's not only about one ministry or one agency or one company, it cuts across everyone. So the final outtake of this slide is basically NTIS to work across all ministries and agencies. So the application criteria, I invite everyone who has a certain innovation that wanted to be presented or wanted the idea to be in this sandbox to look at this. We are looking at Malaysia or Malaysian-owned company. If it's foreign company, it can be verified, but the JV for planned incorporation of Malaysian-owned entity upon approval of application has to be done. It has to have a technology readiness level 6 and above. If it's 4 and 5, we need to look at how can we do venture building, and 1 to 3, how Magic or other agencies that is focusing into early tech adopters program to step up and help the innovators. You have to have a proof of technology ownership, because again, this is the innovation sandbox. We need to ensure that the innovation basically yours. You need to have, if it's not yours, you need to have a permission to use the technology to be tested in this environment. And the last, I think the most important point here is you need to have a statement on what problem are you solving, what issue are you looking at relating to market access and regulation, in a way that how can it help Malaysian economy as well. So type of funding scheme, this is available in our website. Sandbox 1, single site sandbox, maximum financing about amount of 250,000 in full grant to fund single site sandbox solution. Sandbox 2 is multiple site sandbox. We're looking at 500,000 in form of partial grant. You need to show to the secretariat that you're able to come up with another 30%. Sandbox 3, when you are mature enough, you can go for commercialization. The maximum financing is 4 million in form of hybrid fund, grant and convertible promissory notes to finance the commercialization of Sandbox. And Sandbox 4 is matching fund with investor and corporate. The maximum allocation is 15 million as matching fund. This has to be discussed thoroughly with MTDC for the future, for Sandbox 4. So the application approval process for Sandbox, when you look at application, it has to be done through the website, divided into public and green lane NTIS algorithm, we will check the submission to look whether it will go for select committee or not. So the third one is we're looking into NTIS Executive Selection Committee, check with KSU MOSTI, shortlist application to task force based on selection criteria, and engage with relevant Ministerial Secretarial Committee for guideline. So Ministry Secretarial Committee checked by each Ministry's KSU to provide guidance and endorsement to NTIS to look at which regulator to champion if it's a regulatory sandbox, to review and approve and endorse the solution that are unable to be made by NTIS task force. The second last is where the National Technology and Innovation Sandbox Task Force, co-chaired by YB Minister of MOSTI and the KSN, review, approve, and endorse the solution to proceed for testing in innovation or regulatory sandbox. The last one, the successful one, will be presented to Sandbox Council, chaired by Yang Amat Berhormat Perdana Menteri, receive status updates and the necessary processes after that. So I think that's about it. Quite a brief one. If you have any question, you can go to the website. You can email me so that I can pass to relevant authority to answer all the queries. Application are welcome at sandbox.gov.my. Don't hesitate to contact us if you have any more issue pertaining to NTIS. I think Nigel, Jesse, that's about it. Quick and simple presentation of NTIS. Thank you.
Thank you, Tengku Azrul, for your illuminating illuminating presentation on NTIS. We'll see you later. So we'll move on to our next speaker. He is the CEO of Esperanti, Malaysia's. He's the CEO of Esperanti, Malaysia's first and largest dedicated IoT network and solutions provider. Mr. Vix Kanagasingam is a leading industry expert who propagates localized solutions for Industry 4.0, advocating IoT to power industries into achieving new levels of operational excellence and turning disruptions into competitive advantages. He has secured multi-million US dollars projects in the Asia-Pacific telecommunications and IT industries for brands that include Huawei, Cellcom, Telstra, Ericsson, IBM, Microsoft, and more. He's also developed businesses for startups from the UK, France, Australia, and the US. So now I'll leave it to Vix for you to go ahead with your presentation. Vix?
Right. Morning. Thanks, Nigel. Morning, everybody. Let's do the most difficult thing. Let's see how we share a screen.
Yes.
All right. Excellent. I think we are ready to rock and roll.
Yes, we're ready to rock and roll. Okay, go ahead, Vix.
All right. Morning, everyone. So thanks, Nigel, again. So today I'm just going to run through a couple of slides, up to about 8-9 slides, and make it short and sweet also. We're going to talk about who Esperanti is. Today we are Malaysia's first and largest IT network operating nationwide with a global coverage, because Sigfox is a global network. So let me just go there. So we have deployed a nationwide network as of 2018. Today we are densifying the network. We have covered more than 85% of the Malaysian population. We are continuing densifying the network. Hopefully by end of next year we'll hit about 95%. In 2017, May, Khazanah invested in Sigfox as a company globally into the technology. So we were very clear mandates given to us to ensure that we deploy a nationwide network to support the Industry 4.0 and support the IoT adoption in the country. So very quickly, Sigfox technology is designed on low bandwidth, requires less energy. I would almost say like almost Tesla technology. A single device with a lithium battery can last up to 5 years, even 10 years to track assets. Doesn't require external power and can give you small amount of data. Therefore, it's primarily designed for non-powered assets, including for agriculture, soil, even for smart parking. All right. So X-Plant is very focused on these 8 sectors. We look at utilities, oil and gas, healthcare, community, smart cities, transportation, manufacturing, agriculture. So utilities, our sweet spot is water, smart water, because our nationwide NRW, non-drinking water, is very high. We need to find ways to reduce that NRW. Therefore, it also directly impacts the food security, which directly impacts agriculture. So we're working on solutions in that space, even with local device makers and platform providers. Oil and gas, we're looking at asset tracking across, even gas pipeline, where we monitor the soil movement, rain gauge throughout the pipeline. Healthcare, we look at all this asset tracking, especially all the ventilators and stuff across the nation. We're looking at some of those asset tracking opportunities. When it comes to smart city, smart building, we have some projects on smart parking. Today, the currently deployment in Penang, and we also have a small project in Cyberjaya and also in PJ. So when transportation logistics, we have tracking on assets, especially containers, pallets, and boxes. So we have extensive projects throughout the nation. A lot of our clients use our solution. The unique proposition is that you can track those assets worldwide. In the case of Malaysia, some of the logistic company can track the containers that go to Thailand, even down to Singapore, because we have a global network, and therefore there's no roaming charge. Sigfox does not have roaming charges for the clients. When it comes to manufacturing, very much on the asset tracking, item, workforce, and stuff. Agriculture, we have a sweet spot because a lot of the areas require monitoring of the soil, pH level, rain gauge, etc. And those areas do not have power supply. So with Sigfox technology, these sensors can be placed on the ground, picked up the data, and those devices can last 3, 5 years, even 7 years with the battery. So so we cover those 8 industries. Now, while I say that, we also like to work with local device makers. We push for local device makers. In the last year or so, we have 2 device makers that have designed devices for us, which we have also introduced them to Thailand and Indonesia, because Sigfox creates an ecosystem where you build any IoT solution in any country, you can actually deploy that anywhere else in the world. So these 2 device makers are now doing business, a startup doing business in the region within a year. It's where we like to advocate. So today, this is our current coverage. We have covered, like I said, about 85%. We focus on all the highways, ports, airports, cities. We have covered all these areas. We continue to densify. The objective is also to densify indoor and most of the agriculture areas by 2021. That will give us a complete nationwide coverage to support the adoption of Industry 4.0 and IoT. Now, what we offer? So as X-Pranti, we provide the network. We call it the DNA, Device Network Application. Devices, we have an ecosystem of devices from different partners. We have tested them. And application, it ranges. We have local platform developers. We have global developers. We work very closely with AWS, Azure, and Google, where we incorporate some of their tools to help build those platforms. So we put the solution stack together and we offer that to the market. It's end-to-end, easy to implement, easy to manage. Now, how do we do it? It's phase-by-phase approach. I mean, everyone says, okay, I'm going to do IoT, I'm going to start predicting my future. No, it does not. It's phase-by-phase. So first phase is actually solving the problem, providing some automation, real-time visualization. So the ability to know where your assets are, the situation in the soil, etc., etc. Now, based on phase 2, after about 9 to 12 months of data, you can start to optimize your assets. You know how much you have, how much more you need to buy, or how do I reduce my assets because I can optimize my asset. Phase 3 is when you start doing prediction. You can predict potential issues that's going to happen based on historical data, 12 to 24 months. So you need to take the client through a journey, and that's how we do it with our partners and our clients. So let's talk about the landscape in Malaysia, potential adoption for IoT. This is data from Frost and Sullivan. This report was written in 2015. I think with the current COVID, those numbers will move. They projected 9.5 billion investment in IoT. I should say also Industry 4.0 in 2020, but due to COVID, we will postpone that to 2021. So that figure is actually to show the potential market for all those guys, especially with NTIS producing this platform for new players to come on board, work on IoT solutions. And I like what Tengku was saying, that it's all about solving problems, not coming up with some sexy technology. It's about solving problems. So there's so much potential that we need to focus. Now, on the table, you see on the left, it talks about IoT solution end-to-end, the revenue. This is where we see the numbers are shared. Connectivity about 10%, devices 30%, application platform 30%, and services. That's the combination. Some of you guys could be falling in one or two areas, or maybe the whole thing. So this is something to think about when you're looking at the addressable market for you guys in Malaysia. Now, impact of COVID. Okay, I mean, this is a statement recently by Satya Nadella. He said, we've gone through 2 years worth of digital transformation in 2 months. Yep, that's understandable, but to me, that's still in America. A lot of guys show me the statement. I said, great, I understand. But you look at the chart in the bottom. There, when I was looking at the slides that Tengku was presenting in NTIS, the technology acceleration is very, very fast. Individuals can adapt very quickly. Like we as individuals can pick up an iPhone, adapt very quickly, but the gap is still there, all right? When it comes to businesses, we struggle. You can see the gap between the technology acceleration and the business acceleration is far, because our concern, cash flow, where do we spend the money? How do we solve this problem? Do we try this technology? Do we try that technology? Someone's talking about 5G. You know, some people are even saying, you know, is 5G going to solve my world problem? No. So there's so many questions. So businesses are very careful where they spend money. Then comes to the policymakers. So the government is also struggling to actually come together to find which is the right technology. And that's why I like what NTIS is doing and MDEC is doing, to get all these messages that we are sharing to the policymakers to understand that we need to start accelerating towards the technologies. Therefore, we're not left behind as a nation. This is a graph that I got from Thank You for Being Late by Thomas Friedman, the book. Now, he talks about technology adoption is accelerating. Technology is accelerating, but the adoption is slow. We are here. Now, what we feel from ex-Prantee, and also what we see is we need practical applications to accelerate technology adoption for enterprise and SMEs. So when I say practical, it should be something solving problems, not something sexy. It's all about solving problems. So we're looking for applications that can actually help us bridge that gap. Now, this is my message to all the guys who are listening. Come up with application that actually solves problem where you can actually build a business case. You can actually do cost-benefit analysis. Therefore, your client will be willing to adopt the technology. It's no more about sexy or it's interesting, it's the latest. No one is interested unless you have a very clear way to justify the benefits of your solution based on cost-benefit analysis or the business case. All right. So that's important. That's a message I want to make sure that everyone understands, that to do technology adoption, we need practical applications. Now, so smart IoT adoptions with practical approach and application. So this is a model that we ex-Prantee work with our partners. We take them step by step. It's not about solving the technology. It's actually, we need to look at the people. Who are the people we have? Acknowledge their strengths and weaknesses. Do we need to upskill, reskill them? Some organizations feel that, oh, I put a technology, I'll solve the problem. No, it does not. It makes it worse. All right. So we always say technology comes at the third step. First, look at the people. Second, look at your processes. What are your processes? We have a lot of organizations don't even document the processes. So how do you want to automate if you don't even have a process that's documented? You need to look at processes, evaluate your process, see which process. Some of your processes are more than 5 years old. Can I merge them? Some of them are duplicate. Can I merge, prioritize them? You need to take step 1 and step 2 very seriously. Who are your people? What is it that you do today? And then establish how you're going to automate. So the technology you need, where is it? what are the areas is going to help make an impact. So it has to be a step-by-step practical approach. And then with that, with all the data you collect about your people, the processes, then you start making data-driven decisions. So this is our approach, and this is what I would like to send this message to everyone out there, the listening. It's all about practical approach, because there's so many technology out there. It's difficult to make a decision. Everyone's looking at who is the right person. So if a practical approach makes it more effective for the client or your customers to adopt it, right? And at last, it's all about execution, guys. Thank you very much. Thanks, Nigel.
Thank you, Vix, for your presentation. It was very informative, and I'm sure there's a couple of questions that will be coming in later on what you all do and on IoT itself. So we're going to move on to our next session, which is basically the panel session. Now, joining us for the panel would, as moderator, would be Jesse, the head of portfolio management for GGA. He'll be moderating the session. Tengku Azrul would also be joining us for the session as well. And we also have Mr. Ko Dim Kwan, or DK as he'd like to be called, who is the CEO of Sofik Automation. Now, if for Sofik Automation, it is principally a software-focused company with a focus on Industry 4.0. It's also an investee of the MTDC, or Malaysia Technology Development Corporation, and a member of the Malaysia Industrial 4.0 Integrator Association that is actively engaging with Industry 4.0 ecosystem partners to collaborate and contribute to our nation's digital transformation. DK himself is likes to call himself the Chief Experience Officer of Sofik, and he is also the co-founder of the company with over 10 years experience in leading system integration teams and solutions to enable smart factory, smart city, and Industry 4.0 system implementation. So without further ado, Jesse, I'll leave the start of the panel session to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nigel. And first of all, thank you, Tengku Azrul and Vix, for those two very insightful presentations. So we are going to start our little Q&A dialogue right now. So I'm going to go straight to Tengku Azrul. He needs to jump off this webinar in a bit due to another pressing engagement. But of course, before we let him go, we have a few questions for Tengku Azrul. Yeah? So Tengku, the first questions that we have for you is that in instances during the sandbox projects running, where new IP is discovered, right, in the duration of the sandbox, how would this new IP be handled, especially if it involves, say, multiple parties?
I think it's not there's no right answer for that. But as I mentioned earlier in my presentation, you need to ensure that the technology is yours, or even you have the right of use of the technology. So when there is a new IP discovered, I think it's between the owner of the technology itself, because when governments say they are facilitating the sandbox, they don't take any stake. It's different from that grant where they take a stake into any discovery. This is not that. So if you have your IP or you discover new IP during the period of sandbox, I think safely to say that the IP is yours. The IP is at the owner of the technology itself.
Okay, right. Thanks for that. The other question we have for you, Tengku, would be how would technology readiness levels of each applications be assessed? I understand that there's quite a fair bit of levels, but generally speaking, how would those be assessed?
Okay, the TRL, the technology readiness level that we are using, I think is the method that was developed by NASA, I think in 1980s, I think. It goes from level 1 to level 9, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it's level 9. So when you have only basic principles that are observed and reported, basically that's number one lah. So the TRL9 is system proven in operational environment. So if we take that principle into this current day of age, so if you're at ideation, we're looking at you maybe level 1 or level 2. So when you have a right product or you have done a certain testing, prototype has been verified, UAT has been signed, you have a few set of users, you are at 6 or 7, and you are ready to be into sandbox. So how we are doing that, MIMOS and TPM, they are very much into TRL when they are looking into certain technology or certain company and how they are funded previously. So we are tapping on their expertise into this. Again, the first yes and no in the validation or selection of the technology is TRL. Government or even the MOSTI need to ensure that whoever chosen into this sandbox program is able to, once you get the facilitation, right away you can go into the testing environment. So they cannot say that, oh, we're still in development, we're still in level 3 or level 4 or level 5, that still operated in a very controlled environment without test user first. So that is how we handle TRL. So again, you need to ensure that you prototype, you have your own product or innovation tested, verified before it can go into sandbox environment. So the assessment, it is a simple Q&A between our partner, the TPM and MIMOS. They will contact each and everyone to ensure that is it true that, let's say you in the application form you say that you are TRL number 7. They have a set of questions, predefined one that they'll ask you, and they need to be ensured before it is presented back to the higher authority. So we're gonna have the observed one, we're gonna have a verified TRL. So that's how we do comparison.
Okay, very interesting. So last question for you, Tengku. Are there any deadlines for application for NTIS at the moment?
As of now, we are doing rolling deadline. We have a deadline at the end of the month. So now, if you're looking into this, we're running into cohort 3. Cohort 3 will end in September. Cohort 2 end in August. So the deadline as of now is at the last day of the month. So it is still time for everyone that is interested to participate. It is not for startup alone. It can be coming in from researcher, individual, big corporation, ex-grantee can come in. So it's not, that's why I mentioned earlier, we try to focus to everyone, not not specific sector of the economy, for example. Last time when we say this is a grant for startup, you need to ensure that you have only X amount of employee, you need to have X amount of revenue. No, this time around, open for everyone. Okay. I think that's answered the question. Thank you very much. Thank you, Jesse. Thank you, everyone, to Nigel for setting up this event. Sorry, I have to attend to another matter. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tengku. It's been great having you around. See you again.
Thank you, Nazrul. See you
Okay,
again.
thanks.
See you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
We'll continue on with DK as well as Vix from here.
Okay, so there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. A little snapshot about National Technology Innovation Sandbox. I think certainly based on what we have seen in the past, it has come a long way. In the past, the pilot project funding, as we call it, was very basic in nature. But today, the architecture, the NTIS, is much more comprehensive and it takes into account all the different sectors. And of course, no doubt driven by the challenges posed by COVID, moving forward post-COVID. So I think, yes, please do take advantage of this program where possible. And I think Tengku Azro is also from Futurize, if some of you may know. And And I believe they will also provide some level of guidance or even assistance in terms of how you want to position your application for NTIS. Right, okay. So I see there's quite a fair bit of questions already coming through on the Q&A. So before we jump into those questions, I have to make our panelists work for their lunch. So I'm going to ask them a couple of questions of my own. So this first question goes out to Vix and DK as well.
Yeah.
So first question is, apart from funding, what would you say are the top 3 challenges or risks for end users to adopt new technologies such as IoT? And how can these challenges be mitigated? Maybe Vix can have a stab at it first.
Okay. I think apart from funding, I go back to my slide. I talked about the key part is the people. You need to know who are the people in your organization, what is the skill they have, what are the areas for improvement. You need to really understand your resources. The second challenge is actually your processes documentation. A lot of organizations don't do proper documentation. They don't have proper processes in place. They need to really look at the processes, start establishing owners who's responsible for each process, create ownership, primary owner, secondary owner, and then in those processes also assign some KPIs. Therefore, you can start to see what are the areas you need to improve. If it's taking 5 days, can I reduce it to 3 days? Okay, what do I need to do to reduce it from 5 days to 3 days? Do I train my people? Do I put extra resource? Do I move resource? You need to start looking at the people and the process. That's the second challenge. The third is the mindset, top down. A lot of leaders in the organization say, yeah, great, fine, technology is awesome. I don't want to do anything. I don't want to do anything, all right? That goes all the way down to the ground where everything is done, our standard, like Malaysia boleh, cincai, doesn't matter. I feel the COVID created a level playing field, not only in Malaysia, but globally. I feel that we as Malaysians should take advantage of the situation to lead very quickly, move forward very quickly, because while all the other nations are slowing down, we should take advantage and come up and adopt technology in an effective and practical way. When the doors open, we are a few steps ahead. So I think the mindset of the leaders of the organization is very important. So those are 3 challenges that I see.
Great. Yes. Thank you very much, Vix. DK, your perspective on the challenges.
Okay, first, yeah, I think thanks to Nigel and Jesse for hosting us on this part. Yeah, basically, I actually have coming from a system integrator experience. Actually, I have shared the same thought with Vic as well. This is how the angle actually we look at from enabling a success case study in the project, right? As far as we have seen, I think last year I saw an sharing by CPO where I talk about a survey from Cisco, right? Why most of IoT project was failed, right? So if you really to think about it, right, most of the reason were actually coming from people, process, and technology. So based on our observation, I think people is a key, like Rick mentioned. It has to really address the problem that human being, right, and how to really handle the changes, right, especially to adapt the new working style in company. Because when you have a system that you're all connected, the system being automated and monitored, right? So the people that working with around the system and to manage the output to deliver the job in the speed of that coming out from a very high expectation. So it's really it's something they have to balance out, right? So those competency will come along, right, to really keep them to familiar with the system and deploy, right? And then also the support from management is very important to make sure you have a full engagement, right, in the people side. And in terms of process, same. I feel. I mean, once the KPI is monitored, right, how is it being to? How can we do a better job, right, to improve, right, and especially in manufacturing industries, right, which is a cost-driven sectors and output. You know, they need a higher output years over year, right. So really, how to really manage the resources and the SOP in much more effective, and to convert the manual SOP into a digital SOP, right? And perhaps I think once you have the enough sufficient data to collect from your equipments and the shop floor data, and then only you're able to apply and adopt the advanced big data analytic or AI to perhaps have a virtual digital supervisor that actually be able to smart enough to give you certain intelligent automated SOP, right? So really, it's a journey that actually have to take care, especially process. And I see this very crucial because, yeah, this is the part that actually will determine the effectiveness of the, especially in the production productivity, right? So we actually have come across some experience that I think, for instance, in the SMT line, which is in a semiconductor E&E, right? In some certain equipment, once actually it get connected, right? So how you actually be able to manage the same output or better out, I mean, or even lesser resources, but in order to achieve a higher output, right? So I think this is actually talk about the whole integration of the corporate process flow also and the compliance. Okay. And if you talk about technology part, yes, I think we actually look at two perspectives, which is a process automation and data automation, as well as traceability. So in terms of process automation and data automation, actually, there are many options available nowadays, you know, by all the solution ready provider. So as an end user, you really have to adapt the effective solution into the to meet the business needs, and then you'll be able to sustain it also, because cost of maintenance after adopting the technology is also another part that you have to consider, right? Given that you need to maintain the system, upgrade, right, so that things that can be last long, right? So yeah, I think the technology part is also quite yeah, it's something that we need a right decision. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, great.
Yep.
Thank you for that inputs.
Yeah.
Okay, there are a couple of maybe we'll just jump to a couple of these questions from the floor.
Mm-hmm.
The first question is, I think, what are some of the key factors in Malaysia to drive IoT adoption, right? Cost saving or other factors? And I think that's also related to the question below. Do you think accessibility of cheap labors deter the adoption of IoT in Malaysia? Yeah, so I think we can answer these two questions at one go.
Yeah. Right.
DK, what's your
okay. So yeah, I think, okay, of course, being I mean in this industry and business, to satisfy the shareholder, right, cost, you know, to being a business in a profitability manner and performance, actually, I mean, it's a norm. But beside that, I noticed actually the compliance, the enforcement, right, and the regulation, especially from medical, right, aerospace, in terms of safety, those FDA regulation, also a key driven, you know, that, you know, we need to have a connected system to be able to provide a full proof of traceability and the data, you know, for the health of the end user. Yeah. So yeah, that's another angle that I personally think. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
What's your view on factors driving IoT adoption?
Okay, let's talk about pre-COVID and then COVID, then post-COVID. Let's during pre-COVID, a lot of companies, organizations were less listening to what's new out there, IoT, show me, let me test, let me try. They will talk to many players. Because when I coach, I do coach startups, and they're in the IoT space, and they tell me how they get bullied by the big boys. Going, they struggle, you know, everyone wants to try, everyone wants to test for free, you know. And then when COVID hit, then everyone woke up. It's like, damn, I got to do something about this. I need to automate my process. I can't monitor stuff remotely. I don't have the documents online. It's all hard copy. You know, my manufacturing is, you know, it's all manual. My workforce can't go in. I can't do this. I can't do that. So I call it an awakening. So sometimes, you know, bad things there, you have to look at the silver lining. There's something we can take from that. The awakening woke up a lot of organization. I think also woke up the government, the policymakers, that we need to do something. In the last few months, I see a lot of things happening. I give you a very good example. Look at when we used to go out and eat, the guys at the table, they don't clean the table. The cooks don't even wear masks. All right, we don't care. Malaysia boleh makan ni, don't worry anywhere. All right. So when this happens, suddenly, like what DK is saying, governance must keep it clean. You know, before we wait for the inspectors to come and then summon us, then we do some cleaning. Now it's like everyone has to do it. Right? So it's a good thing that we as individuals also, we are now realizing the importance of governance, in that we are self-empowered to make the decision. We don't have to wait for the government to tell us what to do. We are not kids, right? So waiting for the policymakers to make decisions is an excuse not to move forward, right? So this was an awakening for everybody, from small players to big boys, saying, listen, we need to do something, right? Now, going forward, the adoption.
I think you are spot on with that. So it's definitely the pandemic has benefited quite a lot of you know, the technology industry in particular, and certainly I think it's for everyone's benefit. Like everyone will benefit from this. Okay, there is an interesting question here, and I think this is probably more for you, Vix, as well. It says here, in terms of future roadmap, do you see 5G NB-IoT as a better LP1 solution? It will be a major risk to go into Sigfox and to find out that the standard becomes obsolete, like WiMAX versus LTE.
Yes. I was waiting for the question. Okay, let's put this on the table. Let's talk about NB-IoT first, right? All the mobile operators have been talking about NB-IoT for the last 5 years, right? Talking, testing. None of them have deployed a nationwide network. None of them, all right? NB-IoT falls under the LPWAN space. So when we came on board, we were clearly given direction by the relevant parties, including Khazanah. We need to help the IoT adoption, because LPWAN is a very practical solution that goes across SMEs, enterprise, and we need to help. So we deployed a nationwide network. Today, in Japan, NTT has shut down the NB-IoT network, right? And Japan has a nationwide Sigfox network, right? There are many countries are beginning to realize that operators beginning to realize NB-IoT is not what we want to focus on. There's already a big player like Sigfox has a nation, global of 70 over countries. Many practical solutions are adaptable for them. So let's focus on 5G. So in the case of that, in Malaysia, there was very clear direction. We have partnership with DG in last year, October. We worked with DG with a local device maker called Asian Mobility, and we designed a device that has eSIM and Sigfox in that same device. All right. So the operators are beginning to realize, let's learn to collaborate because the Sigfox provides small data, it meets its purpose. 4G meets the higher bandwidth purpose. Let's work together. In January, we signed an agreement to collaborate with Celcom in the same manner, where we go in the low bandwidth and also with their high bandwidth 4G. End of the day, it's about solving the customer's problem, the client's problem. It's not about which technology. Sigfox is around, going to be around for a long, long time. It's there. You look at in last month, we deployed, worked together with the Chief Minister in Sarawak Center of Excellence. We have put in a Sigfox network to work with them, where Sigfox and 5G will start to work together. So I think if someone comes and says, oh, you know, there's Sigfox and NBIP, no one. Tell me one mobile operator in Malaysia says, I have a nationwide NB-IoT network. No one can put up there and say they have that. Because our clients have come back to us and say, they don't have, we need to work with you guys.
Okay, thank you very much, Vix, for that very nice answer. Okay, so okay, I think we'll. There's a question again for you, but I think we'll take this a little later. I just want to ask DK if you can share with us some of the successful use cases that you have done, you know, as a SI, and perhaps this is some of the things that the audience can take away, you know, for them to implement
Okay.
other projects. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe I would like to take it. Thanks, Jesse, for the good question. So I think I would like to take it maybe from case from smart manufacturing or smart factory perspective by actually helping a local, of course they are MNC, but they're actually focusing in our semiconductor front end process. So what we did was actually to help them enable all the equipment connectivity, and as well as digitize the SOP to be able to operate and manage under a command center, which actually be helping them to reduce the resources they run on the shop floor significantly. So what we did was actually to address, but of course it's a journey. This is a journey that actually we spent a few years together. So it involved a lot of both parties of engagement and understanding also. So we actually discuss and deploy the project phase by phase. So having said that, actually we look at the perspective from connectivity and also the visualization, and then about the SOP, and then we talk about the the output, right? The overall performance. Eventually, the whole concept was actually to be able to help and improve the life for the factory's employee, right? For instance, in terms of technicians that working on the shop floor, right? With all the system being automated and even the machine alarms and the error alerts be able to process automatically and reach them automatically, just like imagine you are a Grab, it's like a Grab Uber concept, right? You are a Grab driver, and whenever there is some machine that need help, it will ping you, and those people that whoever available on the shift, they're able to address to the job attend immediately. And from this process, actually, we're able to collect the data from the flow, right? The machine problem, and we can conduct analytic, as well as the people's competency, right? And the problem that they face to resolve it. So it actually has a lot of benefit that actually to help the management to make a better, smarter decision, and also improvement suggestion, which is really like Vic mentioned, to address the problem that has been hidden in silo for so long, right? So then, the company has just been got an invitation. Visited by MIDA last week. So eventually, they have been start to extend a similar concept to other processes as well. So in smart, this is, I think I would say, of course, they invested a lot in this automation focus, right? So it really needs to work out accordingly to the organization needs lah. All right. And in terms of smart cities, yes, I think we were the main technology so-called the MANCON that work on the Penang video analytic project, which is we connect those live CCTV back to the command center at the Penang Council Comtai area. So what we did was actually to apply IBM video analytic to enable the auto alert based on the case, that is actually targeted in traffic management as well as public safety, right? So with the automated alerts that come from all kind of camera, right? So we also help them to manage the escalation through the the mobiles apps, development as well as the SOP configuration, right? So that's actually enable them to have interagency operation also and to get a more real-time information from their operation. So in the past, the so-called officer who work on command center has to submit the reports manually, who is written on the book, what kind of case happened in a day. Now, to the management. Now they can actually put it from their dashboard, where they can just submit easily and they get it fast, right? This is kind of, the journey that we have been, we are still working on it and we are still going through, and I think, just need to keep it on. Okay.
Great, DK, thanks so much for sharing. I think certainly we know that Solvik automation has done extremely well over the years. And I think more companies can emulate how you go about tackling this new opportunity. Vix, on your side, any use cases that you would like to share with the audience? Any particular interesting use cases running on the Sigfox network?
Okay, so I'll just share a couple. The first one is this is with a logistics company. This company does business with Thailand and also Singapore. So their issue was when they go to the northern side at the border, they hand over the container, they call it cross-border container, to the counterpart in Thailand at the border. Then the container goes all the way to Bangkok and then comes back. Usually the Malaysian logistic company has to wait at the border. If we said, okay, it's coming, sometimes a day, 2 days, 3 days, they're waiting for that container to come back and they have no visibility. They will call, it says on the way. So they told us their problem. So we said, fine. What we did was we put a simple tracker on all their cross-border containers. Therefore, they can actually track the containers when it goes into Thailand. And their waiting time from 2 to 3 days was like 6, 7, 8 hours. So they could actually optimize the resources and make sure they were the right truck, the primers were waiting there, pick up the container and come back. So it was a massive savings of time and money and resources. So that's one example. The other example was agriculture, where the client wanted to actually monitor their soil and stuff. So we went to the plantation. This is interesting. So we went to the plantation, we did a discovery with our partner, and then we realized, okay, we can do that. So the estate manager said to us, listen, I understand this technology is good, we can remotely monitor. My biggest issue is pests. So we said, what do you mean pests? We've got a lot of pests because it's a palm oil plantation, the fruits get bitten by the pests. So how do you monitor that or manage that? So they have burung hantus, owls. They create little bird farm houses for them. So the burung hantus there, they will attack the rats so that rats don't come. All right. Now I said, okay, what's the problem? He said, we do not know whether there's a burung hantu up there. It's about 2-3 meters up. They put the bird house. So we said, okay, fine. So what we did was we actually put a motion sensor in each of the burung hantu houses, so that in their dashboard, in about 16 burung hantu houses, they could actually see where the burung hantus were. And then they knew there were a lot of rats in that space, so they did not put the fruits there. So why I share this story is about when you go there, you ask the questions. Sometimes when you come to IoT, you'll be surprised how a simple solution can solve a big problem for them.
That's very interesting. Yeah, great. Wow, that's yeah, nice, very nice story. Yeah, I think there's a lot of takeaways from that, those examples that you have shared, and it's really about drilling down to solving problems. It's not about fancy technology, fancy acronyms, but it's really getting down, understanding the business needs, and using technology on that side. Okay, I think that's a question here from Lee Cheng. Lee Cheng is from Comes Technology, one of our game companies. She says they are a software house. They have capability to develop on the Raspberry Pi. How do we take advantage of your infrastructure? So I think this is directed at you, Vix, as well.
Okay, so when you say they've developed the solution using Raspberry Pi and stuff, that's a good start. What we have a lot of device makers partners to do that. They develop the software with the Raspberry Pi, with the application. The next step is to test it out in a real case environment. Based on that success, they will then know how to scale the business. So when it comes to these individuals, my strong advice to them is make sure you have designed the enclosure. It's not just something you can plug, because the environment, the solution you're trying to solve, make sure it's IP67, 68, so there's a lot of homework you need to do. The second point I need to say is, how do I keep the maintenance low, the total cost of ownership? Don't come up with a design, with the box, the casing, with a solution where it's so difficult to maintain. All right. So those are things they need to be very, take that into consideration. Now, based on those 2 points, you then need to study the market, which are my potential addressable market, who will want this type of device, what are the problems I'm going to solve, does it benefit, and then how do I scale the production of these devices? A lot of startups come to me, oh, I don't worry, Wix, I can do 1,000 pieces. So I say, hold on. We're talking about quality, because your devices are going to go into production. Some of the customers are going to use it. You can't afford to have a failure, because I come also from a manufacturing background, or my first job in Motorola, where quality is so important. How you manufacture the devices is so important, because when it goes to market, one failure, you have to bring back all the 1,000 pieces, because we do not know. So that is very important. It's not, you're not doing a school project, you're not doing your university project. This is how it's going to go to production. So we need to educate these guys that it's a journey you need to take, and you need to really understand the market and learn to collaborate. So one of the things I think is these partners must learn to collaborate with the big device makers, or find another device maker that's been in the market, understand and learn.
Okay, got it. Thanks so much, Vix. Okay, gonna now move to another question. This one is probably, I think maybe I get DK to share about this. What would be your advice to end users, right, in terms of balancing the need for tried and true technologies versus experimenting with new technologies that promise better ROIs? So, DK, any thoughts? Your thoughts?
Yeah.
Unmute. Oops, sorry. Please unmute. Yeah, okay.
Okay, thank you. I am handled. Well, so I think it's still really fall back to the needs of the business, right? And for instance, whether if a company really need to adapt MES, right, a system, which is a manufacturing execution system, or probably some kind of advanced video analytic for their security system, right? So I mean, all these things has to be balanced out, in terms to really meet the internal organization process, right? For instance, if your production are only taking care same model which has been consistently running with a good volume, right? You have to really reassess, right? What kind of benefit if you really want to adopt, if you have a normal convention shop floor management, right? Tools, or if you consider to upgrade to MES, what is the benefit and advantage of it? So you really have to consider it, and as well as the maintenance after you have adopted this, right? Is the team structures and the business, and also the model that sustaining model, right? Yeah. Okay.
Okay, great. Okay, this is a new question that just came in. It says, any example of business model or business or revenue models for IoT projects? Is it one-time solution charge or transactional? So I think both DK and Vix, you can weigh in on this question. Maybe DK, you have a go first.
Okay, thank you. Be frank, I think for us that serve for factory for so, I mean, a long time, fortunately, most of our project are basically as a combination, I would say, but the one-time, one-off model will be contributing to about 85%, while the 15% will be the maintenance which is under the subscription basis, right? So it's still running is this kind of ratio at this point of time. But of course, when with the adoption of cloud from the factory now, we are seeing the opportunity to improve the subscription revenue more and more. And also, of course, the leasing model, lease to own model for those CapEx equipment, still very low now at this point of time, right? But these are the potential that I believe it can be happen really have a good capital. Like for instance, if we talk about AGV or AMR, right? So we actually also thought about it, right, to put out new model that running on leasing model services, right? But yeah, we haven't really applied, but we thought this will be the potential, right?
Okay. Great, thanks, DK. Vix, your views?
Okay, I mean, to be upfront, there are multiple models like subscription, software as a service, CAPEX and OPEX models. So it all depends on the client's buying power and how problematic is it for you, for them. And also you as the solution supplier, because if you were to supply the device and stuff, it's going to cost you money. So you must have the ability to actually say, okay, I will fund the deal first and do a subscription model. All right. So it's all about the client and you coming to an agreement. What is win-win for both parties? I would strongly suggest you do not propose something, it's a win-lose, because then there's no win-win in the journey. Sometimes you want a CAPEX, you say, no, I want CAPEX. I cannot. The client says, listen, I don't have the money now. I believe in a solution. Can we do an OPEX model, a subscription model? Then let's sit down and work on a win-win model. That's one. So second is, I always say, end of the day, show me the money. All right? Can the client pay you or not? Will the client pay you? All right? So you, especially a lot of IoT players in the market, they are small. Let's be honest. They're small, they're solution providers, they're coming on board, going out there, winning clients. They must make sure they ask the right questions. Okay, I do a subscription model. How would you pay me? When will you pay me? It's very important. So first point, find a win-win commercial model. Second, make sure you have an agreed payment mechanism.
Okay, great. Thanks for that insight. I think it's very, very clear. So I think before we I think both of you have definitely earned your lunch and dinner as well. Thanks so much for that contribution. Just one last question before I let you guys go. In your view, right, how can the government work with the private sector better, to improve the rate of digital transformation? Vix, you want to have a go first?
Okay. So I always believe, teach them how to fish, don't give them the fish. All right? I think the government can actually work a program maybe with MDEC and MIMOS, where come up with an assessment program, digital transformation assessment program, where any SMEs, especially our SMEs, need to apply for this assessment, where the government will fund the assessment process, where MIMOS can play a big part because they have the infrastructure with MDEC coming out with the program, then sending people to assess their companies and propose what are the areas to improve. And that assessment will give the government a perspective where we stand in the world today, where we truly stand, what needs to be done. And in that assessment, these SMEs or companies can then go and say to the government, I'm going to make these changes. I need some grant, work a program with them, because then it's a clear direction, not just go get a grant and do something. So the government needs to help them how to fish. So the assessment program is very important.
Great, thanks for that input, Vix. DK?
Yeah. Okay. I think my statement will be quite simple, because I personally feel digital transformation is a journey, and definitely will need time, take time. But as what Rich said just now, I mean, COVID-19 has came out and speed up the transformation across the global, right? So for government part, I believe in terms of ecosystem and infrastructural side, right, it has to play an important role to drive together closely with private sector to be able to understand the private sector, the real problem statement also, right? And second part will be simplify the incentive application process and speed up the cycle time if possible, right? So that you can see the fast adoption of the system, right? The transformation, I would say. Yeah. So of course, the sandbox program is important to continue promote the entrepreneur as well as the smart solution to be able to adopt, right? So yeah, this is something that we should continue to embark together with the cross multi-agency from government. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that's my personal thing of it. Yeah.
Great. Thank you. Thanks, DK. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think that brings us to the end of the Q&A session. I think, Sevin, probably we will have to take your question off at another time. But thank you so much, Vix and DK, for your insights and for your time. And I would now like to hand this session back to our host, Nigel, to wrap it up. Nigel, back to you.
Right. Thank you, Jesse. Thank you, Vix. Thank you, DK, for being part of our panel session, as well as Vix for doing your presentation earlier on. We'd like to thank you for taking your time to join our webinar today and be part of our session. Now, for the rest of the audience, we'll be ending this webinar soon. And for the presentation slides, we will be sending it out to participants later. Once we get them from the presenters themselves. So aside from that, well, that's the end of our session, and we hope to see you in the next GAIN Dialogues. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Nigel. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Hey, thank you, Vix. Bye.
Thanks, guys. Thank you very much. Cheers.
Yeah.